I won't cover a lot about the participant feedback forms. In your evaluation packets, you're going to see a sample of the feedback form. Again, we wanted to create some level of consistency across divisions so that we're asking somewhat the same questions for participants and being able to measure on an apples-to-apples basis. So evaluators basically collect these forms beginning of day 2 and 3, and they provide the controller this sort of feedback throughout the exercise in real time in order to speed up or slow down exercise play. You are responsible for reviewing the forms and compiling comments for these forms based off of what your DDE or designated exercise director suggests is the most efficient mechanical mechanism to get the feedback consolidated. So in Iowa, our evaluators were doing this on a nightly basis. They were consolidating comments, trends, and themes so that at the end of the exercise, they essentially had everything ready to be submitted to the lead controller, and it will lead to a much more timely turnaround of the final AAR. For those evaluators working at site locations, whether it be a shelter or a bulk site if you're doing functional, we want them to collect and compile feedback and email it to the lead evaluator and the scenario planner at the end of your portion of the exercise. In Iowa, we had the shelter only open for 1 day functionally, so at the end of that functional play, they made sure that they submitted that to the lead evaluator and scenario planner. Pretty simple. The evaluation checklist, I'm going to go back to my tendency there. I'm going to go ahead and show you some of the evaluative components that we're looking for. Let me go to the checklist here. I'll come back to the hot wash in just a moment. So for the evaluation checklist, here are what were agreed upon as objectives for the exercise by the DDEs working with Eric's team. DRMT exhibits critical thinking skills. So there's checkboxes in your guide that will allow you to make comments and to watch for the behaviors that we're seeking as a result of DRMTs exhibiting critical thinking skills. So you can see here, mission focused versus process, objective driven management, brand awareness, etc. The next set looks at compilation of an initial service delivery plan that appropriately meets client needs based on and articulating several key elements, IEP objectives, leadership and district players having an active role in service delivery plan, and then the dissemination of the IAP and the service delivery plan along both top level managers, middle managers, and what's termed as the whole team. We've known historically on DROs in the past that individuals often report that they don't have a sense of what the larger picture is. And one of these objectives is to try to drill down and to see with our new concept of operations, if through the planning P, we're actually able to disseminate that information to all those that need it, including those on the back of IRVs and running shelters. Here, another objective, communication and adherence to an operational structure and tempo. You'll see that we are requiring 2 operational periods completed, hence the reason we're doing 72 hours of exercise play. Typically that allows for whatever disaster to hit, the DRMT to deploy, and then 2 full operational periods to be exercised. Reporting is collected and shared, operational objectives are shared, and then transition is complete for the DRO, roles, responsibilities, fiscal authority, reporting lines, etc. Demonstrate appropriate operational planning and completed IEPs, set reps, essential elements of information, what we call EEIs, and other planning components. PDAs and damage assessment, EEIs are utilized, service delivery plan. The actual planning worksheet is part of the CONOP, as well as looking at client vulnerability. And then demonstrating appropriate operational planning for activities that are expected to occur beyond what the exercise is testing. So we want to see if our teams have forward thinking ability, critical thinking ability to look beyond the immediate but into the future beyond what we're testing them on. Budgeting and burn rates are developed using our finance tools. 24-hour initial budget completed. One of the new tools that was released allows us to be able to size up a rough estimation of the direction of the disaster cost. Want to look at separation of duties, fiscal reviews, as well as obviously using this service delivery plan to guide and monitor our financial burn rate. District follow-up appropriate based off of our operational worksheets, assignments completed using the operational planning tools, and making sure that the worksheet reflects the service delivery plan and the incident commander's intent based off of the incident action plan. Looking critically at how the DRMT successfully integrates with the operation, we want to assess the situation, communicate the role of the DRMT in the operation, and a lot of what I did in Iowa last week on our first exercise is just observe. I was not an evaluator, I was an outsider. I was pretending that I was a DDE peeking in from afar. And really what it was is just really examining how the DRMT meshed with the regional team. Information from the region and chapter is collected and integrated into the DRMT decision making. And obviously some soft skills such as DRMT demonstrating respect for the region and not coming in with 1,000 ton of bricks. Effectively request resources in a timely manner. Pretty simple. When we look at requisitions, all the logistical components for both staff and stuff. Ratio of event-based and partner volunteers being looked at at a strategic level. It's a great way to examine our tendencies to want to deploy, especially service associates. Resources being tracked and request. There is not a request sandbox being open for the exercises, so some of this is an artificiality. The good news is Volunteer Connection does have a sandbox that is open, and it will allow us to generate requests reflecting those human resources that are ordered using Volunteer Connection, which is pretty sweet. Ensure operational efficiency engages with DDSRD, partners, donors, and media. This is the external relations function. Ensuring DRMT delegates most low to mid-level strategic and tactical decisions to the district. Thinking through what we did with re-engineering and Richard Reed's message last Friday, how do we ensure that our decision makers are closest to the client? We want to avoid having groups and activities sitting in headquarters at the DRO planning for, in lieu of, superseding the district directors. So that's what this particular objective is evaluating. And Susie has a good question. Will request have some kind of sandbox for play? Unfortunately not. That's a good takeaway, though, that we should be able to specifically ask for, Susie. We didn't ask for it in Iowa, but that's a good question I can follow up on. I'd love to see a sandbox for request because very few people have an opportunity to actually play in request unless they're ordering routine supplies. I'll definitely take that as a takeaway. Writing myself a note so it doesn't fly away. Some of the others that you'll see on your screen, I'm not going to cover the district headquarters or the actual service sites, whether you're doing sheltering, bulk, or feeding. But these are the evaluation criteria that can be used for district evaluators. So most of you, I understand, are not going to be district evaluators, but rather DRO headquarters evaluators, and also site evaluators. And if you want, you can download these from the exercise guide or from the PowerPoint, and it will walk through what are the common district evaluative criteria that we want to use, as well as the site evaluation criteria. So I'm going to pause there as I jump back to talk a little bit about the hot wash and see if there are questions on any of the evaluation criteria.